Hello, friends. Chris Corsi here, president of Thrive Today, and I want to welcome you to the Relational Skills in Real Life podcast. Today's topic is on maturity and attachment styles. That's right. Actually, what I should say is pseudo maturity and attachment styles. And I want to talk a little bit about why some of us who are dismissive end up appearing more mature than those of us who might be disorganized or distracted. So we're going to tease this out a little bit because those of us who are dismissive, we often come across as we have it together. We are mature. We don't have any pain or problems. We are anchored in security. The reality is, those of us who are dismissive, this is a pain response. So my dismissiveness reflects what was missing in my family and even my community. Now, these are important skills we're going to talk about today because skill 17 is really focusing on identifying attachments, and skill 8 focuses on identifying maturity. So we're going to kind of look at the two of these important skills and how they fit into our ability to be joyful and peaceful and present in life and relationships. So to review, our skill 17, identifying attachment styles, basically is just recognizing the template that we've learned for all of our relationship patterns. And so the styles that we gravitate toward the most are what we've experienced in the garden that we were raised in. And so for some of us, our needs were met with joy and peace, with consistency, and they were predictable and timely, and we grow and develop security, right? The world feels like a safe place when I have a secure attachment. However, when the parent is not responsive to the child's needs and the child's cries, then what happens is eventually the survival circuit will quickly turn off that pain by overriding the attachment response. In other words, children will need connection. It feels like life or death if I don't get the connection, if I don't get the food, the change of clothing, the warmth. What if I don't get what I need? Then my survival circuit is going to develop strong opinions around the lack of connection. So the dismissive response is my response to the pain and the absence of joyful connection in response to my needs. So this is a byproduct of pain, of what was missing in my life. That's the distracted style. With the dismissive style, pardon me, with the distracted style, right? So dismissive is the absence. The distracted style is a reflection of the inconsistency to my needs. That's right. So if you have a child who has a need, what will tend to happen with distracted attachments is the parent will respond when it's convenient for the parent. And the child learns, I just always need to be on because I never know when mom or dad's going to respond here. So the child becomes distracted by their need to connect. So I become distracted. I become vigilant. I become watchful of those who can meet my needs. I'm monitoring them. I'm always on. I'm always ready because I never know when they're going to feed me or connect with me. So we are distracted by our attachment pain, right? Our need to connect because there was an inconsistency in the parental response, right? Those of us who tend to lean toward a distracted attachment, we tend to be, people might consider us a little more clingy. Or maybe a little more reactive, emotionally reactive, because we are well aware of our pain. We are well aware of the pain that's there because of the lack of predictability and consistency. So our distractedness actually is a reflection of that inconsistent response to our needs. So very important to tease that out a little bit. The dismissive is there's a lack of connection. I'm dismissive. What's the point of having needs if nobody's going to meet my needs? Then there's the distracted style, which is, hey, I don't know when I'm going to get fed next. So I need to be on. I need to be ready because sometimes you don't respond to me and other times you respond to me when I'm fine. So the distracted style is actually the intrusive response, where its parents will interrupt the child's play because the parent wants the connection. It's not about the child. So distracted people tend to be seen as more immature, as more maybe more vulnerable, or maybe more reactive in some way, because their pain's leaking out. Their desire for connection is present. They're aware of it, and they don't want to be hurt. So they're much more in tune with their body and their emotions. Whereas the dismissive people, we're just shut down basically. And so it's in our shut down state that other people interpret that we must have it all together because we're not reactive like the other person, right? We're actually shut down, but it comes across as we're maturity. We have it together, right? Which is not true. We've just learned to disconnect and numb because it hurt too much to have needs in life. So the $1,000,000 question here is, am I bonding out of joy or out of fear? Do I expect the good stuff to grow out of my needs, or do I fear having needs? And so it's a very interesting dynamic. And what happens here is the dismissive people tend to be put into leadership positions. They're asked to join the elder boards. They're asked to be in trusted roles simply because they don't react like other people to pain and problems. They don't react. Their volume is turned down in their brain. So they don't get their feathers ruffled, maybe like a distracted person would be. So they're seen as more mature. And often this shows up in a lot of couples counseling, where there's normally one person who is trying to get some change in the relationship, and there's another person that just thinks everything's fine, and the other person's just being completely overreactive. Or you'll see this on elder boards. It shows up as well. The dismissive people, they're fine. They just think the problem is with those who are creating some waves in the community, and they can't understand why people are upset. So it's a very interesting dynamic. It's actually not helpful to making changes. If I'm dismissive and you reward my dismissiveness, you're actually making it harder for me to change, because my dismissiveness is actually seen as a strength. And we also see this a lot on the mission field. We have people who are very dismissive. They're very good at shutting off their needs, missing their families, missing their friends. They just get the job done without a lot of emotional or relational fallout. So it's a very unhelpful dynamic, to be honest with you. But those of us who are dismissive, we are actually having a weakness here. This is our pain response to our needs and our feelings and our reality. So there was a lack of shared emotions or shared reality. There was a lack of timely responses to our needs. So what we've learned to do is to tune out the noise by shutting down. Parts of our character and our identity are frozen and locked up, so to speak. And it's going to take some time to thaw out. So discomfort is our friend if we're dismissive, right? Discomfort is actually the hope that I might become uncomfortable enough that something has to change. And this often happens a lot in relationships where the distracted person is seeking out help and change because they're tired of dealing with this dismissive person who everything is fine, and they don't respond very well or very consistently. And this played out in Jen and my relationship, whereas I was Mr. Dismissive and she was very distracted. And so what happened is she often pursued me and I would run. But I was seen as the mature person, right? Because, hey, I'm not reacting. I'm just fine. Everything is just fine for me because I'm Mr. Dismissive. And so it took a fair amount of time and interaction and feedback from other people for me to see the level of my dismissiveness and how that was actually causing pain in the lives of the people who cared about me. So there was always this dance that we did where Jen was pursuing and I was running. She was trying to turn up the volume to get connection. I'm trying to turn it down because it's overwhelming me. And I saw her as the problem because she just is too upset here. If she would just calm down, everything would be fine. Well, as you probably can imagine, that was not helpful. I had a big problem by being shut down. And it was not helping me that people saw me as Mr. Mature, right? I'm just dismissive. And looking at the maturity chart in the life model was really eye-opening for both of us, because we could see where we were stuck or stunted and we needed some growth. So when Jen stopped pursuing, guess what? It started to cause this reaction in me where I was like, hey, where'd she go? She's not chasing me anymore. I better go find her. So we do a lot of unhelpful dances with our attachment styles. And the beauty of looking at maturity is we develop this roadmap for maturity and how to synchronize our receiving and our giving in ways that lead to life and growth and joy, and how to work on areas that are underdeveloped or malnourished in our character and our identity. And the good news is, with more maturity comes greater ability to tune in to what time it is in our relationships. Is it time for connection or rest? Is it time for talking or listening? Is it time for giving or receiving? Is it time for pursuing or pausing? The maturity reflects the availability we've had in response to our needs. So working on our maturity actually helps us get unstuck. And our maturity is often stuck because of pain. So what I had to look at with my dismissiveness was to look at the pain that I had. I had some pain there. And for Jen, she also had some pain driving her distractedness. But for me, I once I discovered my true earned maturity, I saw that I didn't have the maturity for the roles that I was doing. I was in the role of an elder when I was still working on some child maturity stuff. So it helped for me to be able to recognize this and have the language for this, so I could actually start talking about it and then making changes in my life. That you all think I'm mature. The reality is I'm just disconnected. So working through that and even stepping out of some of the roles that I was in really changed my life. And it touched everything. It improved my marriage. It is now improved my parenting. Like, so many things have changed by me recognizing these patterns that we're talking about. So just because I seem to be less reactive does not qualify me for leadership positions or being trusted with authority. That's just a reflection of how I'm shut down because of my pain. So we also see this in these patterns in how we interact with God and how we see God as a response to our needs. God, our interactions with God are often colored by these patterns, specifically our attachment patterns. So I can remember in my dismissiveness and thinking, God's probably not going to respond to my needs. He's in his own world. He's busy. So I'm going to try not to have needs with God. I'm just going to do all the right things to make him happy because I don't want to be mad at me. But that wasn't a very helpful pattern. So the good news is you can recognize your attachment pattern and you can recognize your maturity. That's the beauty of these relational skills. This changes life and relationships. This actually gives us a legacy that we're proud of as we make the changes to be more secure and more stable and anchored in joy and peace rather than fear. It's a beautiful thing. And I just want to give a little shout out to my friends, Jeff and Sid Holsclaw. They're releasing a book about some of these attachment patterns and how it interacts with our relationship with God. So you could be watching for that. But please visit our website to learn more about these relational skills, Skill 17, as well as Skill 8. You can visit thrivetoday.org and you can learn more about these patterns and get educated and learn the steps and do the practices that are going to grow your maturity, build your capacity so that you can be the person that God designed you to be, running on the fuel of joy and peace.